When it comes to side content for the Kamen Rider franchise, there are a number of ways that this is achieved. Movies, television specials, hybrid battle DVDs, novels, video games, and more. But one of the most fascinating avenues for extra stories of a particular Rider series to be created comes from the Toei Tokusatsu Fan Club streaming service, or TTFC for short. Since 2016, TTFC has produced a number of specials for both Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. These have gained a reputation of being some of the most out there, nonsensical, fan fiction-like pieces of media that you could probably ever find. The first one of these to be released was the Kamen Rider Brave special during X-Aid. This saw Brave gain a new level 4 form and fight against Kamen Rider Oja from the 2002 series Kamen Rider Ryuki, who was revived by a recurring franchise villain faction known as Foundation X from 2009's Kamen Rider Double. At the end of this special, there was also a hologram projection of King Dark from 1974's Kamen Rider X. Why? There can't be an answer, as TTFC doesn't care. But by far the best example of the antics that TTFC can get up to has to be the ongoing series on the app, Kamen Rider Outsiders. Running since 2022, Kamen Rider Outsiders is a sequel to the Kamen Rider Genmu's special duology, a group of episodes that started out as an April Fool's joke years prior to the release, and ended up becoming an X8 and 01 crossover event in 2021 and 2022. The end of the second episode of the Genmu special featured a cliffhanger involving Smart Brain from 2003's Kamen Rider Fies. At the time, this had no clear intention of being followed up on, which was common of TTFC specials to do this over the years. However, when the Genmu specials ended in the fall of 2022, Kamen Rider Outsiders was revealed with a trailer, showing that characters from across the franchise would be involved. And, man, nothing of this makes any sense. In the 2 years since Kamen Rider Outsiders has begun, there have been 6 episodes, in episode 0 and then episodes 1 through 5, released sparingly over usually the periods of about 3 months or so between episodes. Episode 5 of Kamen Rider Outsiders is scheduled to be released here in early May 2024, and kick off a quote-unquote new chapter of the series. The staple of each episode of Outsiders is to bring back a character or a concept from a previous Rider series with their original actor reprising their role, and introduce brand new Kamen Rider suits and riders previously never seen before. This has led to a number of interesting forms to be created, and it really opens the door to basically any possibility for future episodes. While Outsiders does have what you could call a plot, trying to connect each episode together as everything goes on has been kind of a mess. The series feels like nothing is happening with any importance, and hardly anything going on is ever explained, which is so much fun. Currently, there is no word at all how long this series is going to last on TTFC, nor is if this is building towards any sort of movie or grand finale. We're just kind of along for the ride as long as they decide to keep giving us these. I figured this would be a perfect time to prepare for the next episode to release by sharing my thoughts on this crazy series here on Toku Topics. Today I'll be breaking down each episode of the series so far so we can go on this journey together. And if you like content like this here, be sure of course to like and subscribe for more Kamen Rider content, and comment down below if you'd like to see more videos like this one. We see, following the ending of Kamen Rider Genmu's, the newly revived Humagear version of Dan Kuroto sits in his office of the Genmu Muso Corporation. Suddenly he is approached by a familiar looking face, not the smart lady of Kamen Rider Fies, but the smart queen, who was teased at the end of the Genmu specials as mentioned earlier. This mysterious smart queen has the familiar face of Mari Sanada from Kamen Rider Fies. Meanwhile, outside, Gaiamatsu and Rin from 01 discuss Genmu's recent acquisition of multiple IT companies and recaps the audience on the events of the previous Genmu special. Suddenly, Rin is possessed by Arc, who informs Guy that with Genmu being revived, this has led to other villainous characters from the Kamen Rider franchise now trying to be revived as well. Back in Kuroto's office, the Smart Queen is here on behalf of Smart Brain, who want to take over the Genmu Muso Corporation, to the dismay of Kuroto. Turning down the offer, he runs away and runs out of battery and collapses. because he's a Himuryu now. He is saved from his untimely death when Mari Sonoda from Kamen Rider Faiz finds him and plugs him into a charger station, who explains that her appearance has been stolen by Smart Brain, who is after Genmu Corp due to a threat from something called Zane. Led by the Arc Orphanok from Kamen Rider Faiz, Kuroto is not worried about this, having experience dealing with an Arc before. Smart Queen and Kuroto confront each other, with Kuroto transforming into Kamen Rider Genmu Muso Gamer, and Smart's Queen becoming Kamen Rider Delta. The two fight, with Delta using an Exceed Charge finisher until Genmu uses Pause and defeats Delta, killing the Smart Queen. Suddenly, the Arc Orphanok himself appears, and Kuroto is about to transform again, but suddenly Rin and Guy appear to break up the fight, saying that the day will come in which they need to work together to defeat Kamen Rider Zane. Suddenly, a mysterious figure approaches, who some might remember from the cliffhanger ending of the 2021 TTFC special, Kamen Rider Blades x Kamen Rider Spectre. This guy, I kid you not, is named Rando Joseph.
必ず果たす。古の悪の仮面ライダーたちが共に力を合わせる大いなる計画。プロジェクトアウトサイダーズを。
単体で、仮面ライダー王者がこう、物語の中心になるというのはこれ本当にすごいことだなと思いますし、やっぱりそれ相応の、責任とか、覚悟みたいなのがあったんですけれども、やっぱりそれ以上に幸せな気持ちでしたね。嬉しかったですね。
Now on to the real episode 1, The Mirror World Treasure and Oja's Return. Inside of the Sixth Leaf Bank, a robbery is being committed by a familiar face. Asakura Takashi from 2002's Kamen Rider Ryuki is about to shoot somebody, before flashing back to the day before. Asakura is meeting with Councilman Nezu Chuta to discuss the robbery plan, who apparently is actually behind all of this in order to collect the insurance payout. Asakura is told to make sure that everything goes as planned, even if he has to kill, which this version seems to be against, in contrast to the one that we know from the previous shows. Left alone in the office, a nostalgic noise that fans will recognize as the sound of danger from the Mirror World in Ryuki plays as Kamen Rider Odin suddenly shows up, offering Asakura a blank purple advent deck and inviting him to once again become a Kamen Rider and get back to his old ways and memories of the Rider battle of 20 years prior, which he has since forgotten after Odin's defeat at the hands of Kamen Rider Knight in the Ryuki finale and the world being reset. This Asakura rejects the offer. Nezu reveals that this was all a setup, and shows off the advent deck of Kamen Rider Scissors. Enraged, Odin once again appears and offers the offer from before. This time, the Asakura accepts. As Nezu gloats in his office about to transform, Asakura emerges from the mirror world, smashing the mirror to pieces and stabbing Nezu to death. He then transforms and joins an ongoing fight between new users of Kamen Rider Guy, Raya, and Zolda. Oja quickly kills all of them, while back in Nezu's office, out of nowhere,
仮面ライダー王者なかなかの暴れっぷりだね歴史が変わる瞬間が見れそうだ
and I have no idea what's going on at this point. Kamen Rider D'Ange just shows up and watches. I love this show. Having killed the other riders, Oja is congratulated by Odin for being the final rider, who Oja then attacks with Venno Snaker and slams into the basement of the building from before. Odin drops, out of nowhere as well, the Survive Mugen Advent card. Now this is a fun one. So the Survive Mugen Advent card was a card that we saw in Ryuki, or at least was one that we saw art for back during Ryuki. It was the third missing piece that connected both Ryuki and Knight's Advent cards together, and it was kind of assumed to be like the strongest one. It was released in different ways. There was like SIC forms where people actually used it, but it was never actually used on screen until the Rider Time Ryuki special, which was also a TTFC-like special from 2019, in which Odin appeared for the first time in a long time, used that card, but didn't activate a Survive form, but we finally got to see what this card would do. And now, out of nowhere, Odin is back again, and he drops the card. But of course, every time we see this card, it doesn't actually get used. So the card gets used, and he becomes Kamen Rider Oja Survive form, a brand new form that we've never seen before, ever. A brief battle ensues until Oja uses his final event attack and gets rid of Odin, who leaves his Advent deck behind. Oja returns to the real world with his deck, grabbed quickly out of his hands by Kamen Rider Diend, who is interested in its power to grant wishes. Asakura begins to fight back, but Diend suggests that he uses his talents to fight a stronger enemy instead, Zane, who appears outlined in the sky. Intrigued, Asakura accepts this and leaves. Diend then hands the Advent deck off to a member of Foundation X, who back at their lab, places it inside of a regular V-buckle, which powers a 3D printer that is sponsored by Hidden Technology from 01, and restores the Wonder Ride book of Disaster from Kamen Rider Saber, as his body resurrects on a table.
Henshin!
Episode 2, The Omen of Destruction and Disaster's Revival. We see Ren Akamichi from Kamen Rider Saber as he sits alone on a park bench eating a cup of ramen noodles. The red pickled ginger within this cup reminds him of his old rival Disaster, who we are reminded of through a flashback sequence showing scenes of the two and their relationship and their numerous fights. His inner self then appears and longs for the feelings that the two had when they were fighting each other, which then suddenly Megado appear from out of nowhere and are defeated by the arrival of Kamen Rider Hirobi. Hirobi lets Ren know that Zane has predicted that he will soon meet with a revived foe. Back at the Foundation X lab from the end of episode 1 of Outsiders, Disaster's body awakens and leaves, something that they comment on has happened to them before when they revived Hirobi and they ended up siding with Zane over X, but then Disaster just goes out and taunts some bystanders until Ren shows up. He then transforms into Kamen Rider Kenzan and the two begin to fight just like good old times. Kenzan gains the upper hand over Disaster, but stops short of finishing him off. Seeing Kenzan hesitate in this fight, Hirobi declares that he has sided against Zane and joins their fight to stop both of them. Wanting to finish things on their own and not get anybody else involved, Kenzan and Disaster temporarily team up against Hirobi, defeating him until Arc possesses Hirobi and transforms him into Kamen Rider Arc Zero. A weakened Ren is then carried to safety by Disaster, trailed by Arc Zero. The power of Kenzan's Wonder Ride book and the bond that these two rivals, now temporary allies, has created transforms Disaster's sword into a brand new Seiken, the Kokuraken Shikoku, and creates the Gaikotsu Ninja Den Wonder Ride book. Using this materialized Seiken sword driver and these new weapons, Disaster transforms into the brand new, never-before-seen Kamen Rider Disaster, an outcome that Arc did not predict and is easily overwhelmed by. Before Disaster finishes Hirobi off, he is shielded by a familiar face, Nico Saiba from Kamen Rider X-Aid, because we did not have enough shows involved in this particular episode. She warns Disaster that Zane will now see him as an enemy, who Disaster now says he must beat first in order to resume his fight with Ren. With more and more things falling out of control, Nico calls Hidden Intelligence and calls a board meeting at Geno Corp to assist in the revival of the forbidden game, Kamen Rider Chronicle. So now that we're about halfway through the series of Outsiders thus far, I want to take a short little detour from covering each of the episodes and talk about a very important other aspect of the series, and honestly the biggest reason why any of these exist at all, toys! So besides selling memberships to TTFC, of course Bandai Japan has made a number of merchandise releases related to Outsiders. There's these acrylic stands and pins and stuff that you can get at the Kamen Rider store, but those are not as cool, and of course not the things that you were probably expecting. Now for episode 0, there was no new merch at all really, as the Genmu Muso related items had already been released for the Genmu special alongside the Arc Thouser key and such like that. There was soda figures of them, but those all happened before Outsiders. They're like brought into the show now, like they're considered Outsiders things, but like, But basically, the first new actual piece of merchandise came from episode 1, when the Candy Toy Soda Chronicle Ryuki line made a special premium Bandai exclusive 2-pack of Oja figures, including his not released before blank form from the Ryuki movie, which was just a fun Easter egg thing to do, and of course a figure of his brand new Survive form. Now with episode 2, there were a lot more releases. Soto made another set, this time themed after Disaster, which included a reissue of his figure from the original Saber line that had additional paint applications and stickers, and also came with some bonus stickers if you wanted to upgrade your Kenzan from the previous line to be a little bit more detailed, and of course the secondary figure was the brand new Kamen Rider Disaster. Now while for Oja, they still have not at the time of this video, and also the time of Outsiders thus far, released his version of the upgraded, I guess, Veno Visor Sway, or whatever they would call his Survive thing, which is just a repaint of Ryuki's Drag Visor Sway. And there's a rumor that there's a CSM of that on the way pretty soon, alongside like Knight's Survive stuff. So I would not be surprised if Oja Survive toys are down the horizon eventually. They do need to release that deck and everything too. The Survive Mugen card was previously released in like every version of the CSM drivers, so we don't need the card, but we need the visor and the deck. I'm sure we'll get them eventually. But for episode 2, there was some deluxe releases, as Disaster Sky Gotuken Ninja Den Wonder Ride book was then released alongside the emblem to turn the regular deluxe sword driver into the Korokuken Shikuku. Now, Bandai also used this opportunity to reissue the Haken Blood driver, which was used by Kamen Rider Falchion, and they did that because Disaster used that driver in the original Saber show, so like still kind of connected. And this was a good excuse for them to finally release the Kamen Rider Castle Dark book, which was used only in the Saber final stage. So this was a really cool thing, seeing old toys get some reissues and also some brand new stuff, and able to use this as an excuse to release never before released gimmicks. I really like the Saber Alchema stuff we got for episode 2. So jumping right back into this with episode 3, the battle fight resumes in Zane's birth. Arc gives Hirobi a recap of the series thus far, as Zane's birth is quickly approaching. Back at Genom Corp, Nico Saiba is approached by George Karizaki from Kamen Rider Revice, who brings her the completed Zane driver in one of his typical rider-driver cases, and is told that she just needs to upload a copy of Kamen Rider Chronicle to the driver for it to be fully complete. Afterwards, she is told to then bring this to a mysterious lab. Back at Foundation X, they use the Kamen Rider Chronicle Gashat in a previously unseen, and still not released at the time of this video, black and white buckle driver that seemingly does absolutely nothing but just be a Gashat holder. Am I reading too much into this? Are we going to get a Kamen Rider of this? What is this here for? Why did they show this? There's still a buckle driver from a couple, like, V-Cinemas or something before they got to release. Bandai, what? Aren't you supposed to make toys for this This powers up a machine to revive 2 Humagear bodies, one with the destroyed pieces of Gold Drive's Bano driver, still smashed from his iconic defeat at the hands of his son, Kamen Rider Mach, back in Drive. One of the revived bodies, looking like Gold Drive but now bronze, awakens. Nico heads back to the lab address, revealed to be from board of Kamen Rider Blade. She meets with President Tachibana, which fans will recognize as Kamen Rider Garen from Blade, who is looking at the data of rider cards from Kamen Rider Decade's power system. He states how most Kamen Riders have lent their powers towards the completion of Zane, and that Arc states that Aruto Hidden, who was also known as Kamen Rider 01, was the first to lend his powers to this cause, before he was interrupted by Tanjiro Bano, who kicks Hirobi out of the server. Hirobi transforms and begins to fight Bronze Drive. Nico is called, alerted to Bano's appearance, and she asks who will be using this brand new driver.
噂をすればなんとやら。よく来てくれた。
As Foundation X watches Hirobi and Bronze Drive fight, the other revived Humagear cowers in fear in the corner. Hirobi is defeated and about to be killed when Kamen Rider Zane finally approaches. Pulling out a decayed-looking card for Exade Muteki Gamer, he uses his hypercritical sparking finisher on Bano, shredding this card as it's used. Then, using a rider card of Cross Saber, he summons the Haoken, used to summon all of the other Seiken from Saber's show. This attack is fatal, and Bronze Drive explodes. Then, Zane cancels his transformation, revealing his identity to be none other than Sakurai Yuto, once known to fans as Kamen Rider Zeronos from 2007's Den-O.
時の運行が変わったらしい。俺が仮面ライダー全員だ。
Alright, so before we get into the final episode here, you're probably wondering, what the hell is going on? And I am too. So Zane's driver, right? Zane is the main character of Outsiders here. Zane has not gotten his driver released yet. The theory about this is that not only have they not figured out how they're going to make these cards shred in a toy, because that's an interesting feature to work out, but we also probably haven't seen every card that Zane's going to use. There's definitely cards after this episode that he uses that Bandai's probably going to want to pack in with the inevitable deluxe driver someday. Now, I love this driver. It includes a progress key from 01 to transform and uses rider cards from Decade. These are technically not the rider cards, they're Zane cards. Instead of having the regular rider symbols on the back, they just have a generic Zane logo, but that's because they can sell them to you again. For all intents and purposes, they are derived from Decade card technology. They look exactly like Decade cards. they're decayed cards. So they're just probably like temporary use decayed cards, basically, which is why they shred them. The TVosity website kind of brings up that the reason why they shred them is because it would be overpowered if you could just spam these attacks. So it was kind of believed that Zane's power set would like destroy these riders, like, 'cause since the riders gave their powers, people were wondering, like, is X-Sim Muteki Gamer and Cross Saber like erased from like canon now? And it seems like no, it's not erased from canon. It's just Zane can only use every rider's power set once, which, okay, I like that idea a lot. Now, also, if you haven't been paying attention here, we got a lot of characters going on here. So it seems like the main characters of the show going forward are going to be Nico from X-Aid, Tachibana from Blade, Zane, which is also technically Zeronos from Den-O, and then probably Arc, I guess, technically from 01. This series is a crossover between Blade, X-Aid, 01, and Den-O. But of course, so far we've already seen double things, we've seen drive things, we've seen saber things, Ryuki things, decayed things technically. Forze is a card that shows up. Does that count? So, it looks like we don't know if the goal is to bring every rider show into this thing, from like Kuga through Gachard. Just you wait. We're not done yet. Episode 4, the most recent episode of Outsiders at the time of this video, Mad Time and Zane's Identity. So Brain from Kamen Rider Drive comes out of hiding. He was the Humagear that we didn't see previously in the last episode, or they were kind of hiding, after Banno is defeated by Zane. He's then trapped to being a face once again on the tablet, like he was in Drive, so he's not technically dead. Despite Foundation X reviving Brain alongside Banno for the purposes of joining Project Outsiders, Brain claims he doesn't quite side with their cause. Something that doesn't really matter to Foundation X, as if he becomes a nuisance for them, they're just going to have Arc hack them and do their bidding. Now, I don't understand that, because Arc apparently is supposed to be anti-Zane, or he's pro-Zane with helping Hirobi, but then Foundation X threatens to use him against Brain, which wouldn't that just continue to put him on the same side? Did they mean somebody else other than Arc? Do they know Arc's not on their side? What the fuck is going on? Brain leaves with Yuto to go back to board, where the Zane team currently meets, asking Nico to release Kamen Rider Chronicle to the public, which she is against, knowing firsthand how dangerous that this game can be. Despite Brain's research on Yuto's past as Zeronos, this version of Yuto doesn't come from a timeline where he was a hero. Instead, he sides with Tachibana, who plans to use Kamen Rider Chronicle, Zane, and the gathered Legend Rider powers they've collected to eliminate humanity. Overhearing this on Brain's phone, Banno then alerts Foundation X to Zane's plan. Hirobi turns against Tachibana, who then threatens Nico to release the game and ends up being possessed by Arc, giving him the power to transform into Kamen Rider Arc Zero and fight Zane. Instead, Tachibana takes this one, transforms into Kamen Rider Garen, and they fight. Arc Zero gains the upper hand in this fight until Yuto arrives, and we see the first on-screen transformation of Kamen Rider Zane.
Zane! Henshin. Zane rise! Justice! Judgment! Zane! Salvation of humankind!
Who uses Blade Keenform's power to attack Arc Zero. Back at board, Brain remembers his brief time as a Kamen Rider, which was seen in the 2019 special Kamen Rider Brain, which, like Gemu's, started as an April Fool's joke, then they made it into a real thing, and then it was only in a dream sequence for him, but then Brain used this rider suit again in the Overquartzer film, but you could argue that was like plucked from a memory or something. So technically, this is Brain's first, like, in the real world, like, usage or mention or memory of the Brain suit existing. I love the Brain suit. I want the figure art of the Brain suit. I can't wait to see that footage of the Brain suit that we saw in the preview for episode 4. That fight looks like it's going to be really, really cool. I cannot wait to see it, and it's going to be great. Brain shows up and gets attacked and immediately knocked out of his transformation, the clips from the preview not being present in the episode whatsoever. Defeated, Brain begs Zane to come to his sense of justice, and he leads to Yuto canceling his transformation. Off to the side, Garen picks up Rouse cards that Zane just dropped on the forest floor after attacking Arc Zero and also attacking Brain, and uses one of the Keenform Rouse cards to transform into Garen Keenform, which is another thing that Arc didn't predict apparently. Now this form is an interesting one, so technically there is a Garen Keenform that has existed before. It was only ever seen in SIC, So it was like a cool figure, like kind of what if concept thing. This is the first time that a proper, like not super exaggerated, like what you would expect a regular rider suit Keen form for Garen to look like. Now what's really cool is that this form has actually appeared since Outsiders. It was used in the 20th anniversary Blade special stage show event, in which they also gave Liangle a Keen form for the first time. Now apparently, from what I understand, the stage show gives an alternate explanation as to the origin of Garen's Keen form powers. So it's possible that just like how Yuto here is an alternate Yuto, this could be an alternate Tachibana, which would explain why he's a little bit more like, you know, genocidal. So hopefully maybe that's why like the Keen form's explanation is very consistent. It could also be that this is Outsiders, and you got a brand new... Two of these forms riders just picked cards off the ground. I love this show. That's not even in the script. I'm looking at the script here. The last like 2 minutes aren't even in the script. I'm just talking now, and I just realized that two of the forms in this fucking show, they just pick up cards that we've seen before and transform. So Yuto is then taken over by Zane and mimics Nico's voice to authorize the launch of Kamen Rider Chronicle. Oh yeah. Well, what did Garen Keen form do? It just beat Arc Zero. It didn't really do much of anything. Anyway, it's time for the next episode, because on a distant rooftop, George Karizaki holds out the Juga driver, with this situation of course being
actually unexpected. 仕方がない.
And that's where Kamen Rider Outsiders has ended thus far. Except at the end of this episode, we had a little teaser where our good old friend Dan Kuroto appears once again, and that it is time for him to reappear and become the true protagonist of Kamen Rider Outsiders, who is ready to come and fight Zane, teasing that a new chapter of Outsiders will be beginning in 2024. And that brings us up to current day. So of course, if you're expecting, you know, what is the teaser for episode 5 show? Of course, with Jugo's little teaser there, it's going to be him. Well, why would you think that? That makes sense. And Outsiders doesn't care about that. So Outsiders episode 5 is planned to be released on May 12th, 2024, which is why this video is coming out now. So far, we've seen a couple new forms for this, including Genmu Hyper Fumitsu Gamer. So even though he already got Genmu Muso in the Genmu special, I guess technically Outsiders didn't give him a new form, so this is going to have a new repainted version of X-A's Muteki Gashat, a repaint of a Maximum Gashat of some kind. It is not his previous Muteki Gashat that we saw, the Maximum Gashat from the Visa Next film. There's also like this Gashat we see him use briefly in another promo. It looks like it's like maybe like an ARC version of his Proto Mighty Action X, so super interested in that. Kind of our main draw for this next episode is going to be Kamen 03. We don't know who this is yet technically, but we see that Izu's 02 form and Arc 1 are here, Arc 0. So it looks like maybe the two of them fused into the 03. We're adding more rider shows into this. Sumari from Kamen Rider Geats is joining in this episode. I have no idea why, other than, if you haven't figured this out, the main rider of Kamen Rider Outsiders is none other than Yuya Takahashi. And if you don't know who that is, he's the main writer and series creator of X-Aid, 01, Geats, and Outsiders. So I think if you kind of then think about that, it all starts to kind of make a little bit of sense. Kamen Rider Zane has gotten a mainline Soto figure released in early 2024 as part of both the 4th set of retail and premium version Soto Gachard figures. However, joining in on some of these unreleased items from Outsiders thus far, there's been no figures or toy releases related to Bronze Drive, Garen Keen form, and Zane's driver, like I mentioned earlier, but apparently, probably all these will show up, and of course, from episode 5, it looks like we got at least 3 new Gashats, the 03 units, which I think has a listing already. There's rumors, which I guess we'll find out very soon, and this will date the video, but there's rumors that Kamen Rider Build might be the next show that joins this whole thing. I hope and pray that we get an episode 6 teaser at the end of this upcoming weekend when this video is coming out. I cannot wait. But that is all going to do it for our Kamen Rider Outsiders, because there's nothing else we have to talk about whatsoever. But anyway, guys, you guys have been watching Kamen Rider Gachard recently, so Legend, he's a fun guy, right? I've been using some clips of him. And there's this really cool episode of Gachard that aired recently where he got his final form, and they brought back these old rider suits. They had new people play these evil riders, which was kind of a fun thing. So we had Dark Kiva, and we had Eternal, and we had Glare. The 2 of the 3 of them were kind of defeated. We're still kind of working on one of them. But the Glare got away, and so basically... Oh my god. oh, well, shit. So I guess we're not bringing Gachard into Outsiders. We're bringing Outsiders into Gachard. So yeah, as I was working on this video, Kamen Rider Zane appeared in Gachard, which is definitely not the way I would have expected this to go. So I guess Outsiders is now not only connecting everything from its past of the franchise together, but it's now breaching containment and seeping into the main regular current television show. So that is certainly interesting. Well, I don't know what that means. I assume it's basically just a glorified promo for the fact that there hasn't been an episode of Outsiders since October 2023, and we're finally coming back to it. It's probably something like that, but either way, with all of that, you are caught up to watch the new episode of Kamen Rider Outsiders and enjoy in the wackiness and absolutely insanity that this is. It is the most turn your brain off fun that I've ever had watching Kamen Rider in a very long time. So let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this series? Have you bought any of the toys that have been released? Which toys do you want them to release? And if this keeps going, what characters and suits and shows and forms would you like to see introduced, connected, brought back, made, whatever? I would love to know your guys' thoughts on this, because this is really a lot of fan fiction made real. It's really cool. So, of course, until next time, if you guys liked videos like this, I like to do more videos kind of like this. This is a little bit of a different sort of type of video. I'll be sure to like and subscribe for more Kamen Rider content. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at LiveRangerKey or LandifficPR. And I'll see you all later. Also, this theme song, I didn't talk about the theme song yet. It's called Who's the Outsider? Or What's the Outsider? Basically, kind of, I think, sort of, in my mind, I take this as a joke to be like, hey, what is this show? But it's kind of a bop. It's like, da, 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 da. I gotta do this so I don't get copyrighted. Da, 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 da. Who's the outsider? It's pretty good. Cannot wait for more.